That's it. No more. We're drawing a line in the creepy decaying sand.
Ben Moore.
Michael Huber.
What's going on?
Hey.
It is time to discuss Sacred 3.
Yeah.
So I had never played the other Sacreds, so I'm a newbie, fresh perspective on the Sacred franchise. I hear that this one is drastically different.
Drastically different. That is correct.
Tell us how it's different than the other ones.
So Sacred, in the realm of action RPG, Sacred has always been kind of this oddball. I actually haven't played Sacred 1. I've read about it, but Sacred 2 was kind of this ambitious game. It had a lot going on. You had 7 different playable characters, and you had this open world where it wasn't like segmented into to sections, and it felt very big as a result. And you're like, oh, there's some potential here. The only problem was it didn't feel very good. It didn't look very good, and there was some open world jank. I know that's not like the scientific term, but you're like, man, I want to see what they do with the next one. But now that Sacred 3 is here, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
I actually wanted that.
So this one is extremely linear, not only in
Yep.
the level design, where it's pretty much just one path guiding you through.
They
but
took away the best part of Sacred 2. There's no more open world.
Yeah.
You are funneled through these
Literally funneled.
very boring, very simple levels.
the same enemies over and over.
Mm-hmm.
The character progression, I want to talk about this. It's pretty much non-existent.
It's awful.
Because you get gold, which is your XP. So you level up your weapon and your armor and your skills with gold, but you have to be a certain level to spend the gold on the upgrade.
Right.
So why even level up? Why not just give you the skill as you progress?
Definitely.
Because yeah, you don't even there's no loot. You don't find different weapons or armor through the game. It just gives you it after you hit a certain level.
There is no loot at all.
No
It's awful.
loot.
And so talking about the character progression, one of my least favorite things about it is I don't feel any more powerful at level 10
Yeah.
than I did at level 1.
Once you've seen it in the beginning, you've seen it at the end.
So each character has 2 special moves, and these consume a resource, and you can recharge that resource by collecting these orbs from chest or off dead enemies. But the problem is you get this resource so often that you can just sit there and
Spam it.
spam the move. You feel indestructible. That game is a boring slog because everything just melts. At level 1, I felt like a god. I felt like I'm at the end game, but you're not. You're just starting. So in that sense, that lack of progression feels very disappointing. And they really give you very few skills at a time, and they're all like kind of equally powerful. And so there's no excitement to it. There's nothing to look forward to, which I think is very key in an RPG.
And important too, I played like 8 hours or so local co-op, so which is definitely what the game is designed for, gauntlet style.
Yeah.
And my buddy and I, we were slogging through. We were just
Right.
godlike, destroying everything. No sense of progression. But also, what I really wanted to talk about was the tone of this game,
Right.
and the plot, and the writing, and the voice
Sure.
acting.
Yep.
What is going on with this game, Ben? There are some of the most ridiculous words and lines ever delivered in a game I have heard.
Yes, the tone is all over the place. I do want to say though that is off. I don't even want to call it offbeat humor because it sounds like I'm praising it, but that has been present in Sacred before.
Yeah.
This is not new, but it still feels really bad because none of it meshes super well. So it looks like kind of a cool fantasy style, but then you hear the characters talk, and it sounds like they're breaking the fourth wall, and they're making all these really corny jokes. And the worst part about it is it's really easy to combo, and every time you get a combo, some omnipresent announcer says really bizarre things.
Yeah, like,
he's like,
sexy
to you. And you're like
50 times.
No. And exactly. You hear all the time, and it just doesn't mesh. It's jarring, and it pulls you out of it, and you're like, what is it's a game. Sacred 3 is a game that is not trying hard enough in the areas that it needs to try in, and it's trying way too hard in the areas it needs to back off on.
There's this guy that looks like he's Loki. There's this other guy that looks like he's Cabal for Mortal Kombat that calls everyone some sort of animal. He's like, the spiders and the flies, you're the lamb, we are wolves.
sort of the one new thing that Sacred 3 adds, I think, is also a huge disappointment, and those are the weapon spirits, which I don't even know exactly how you get them. They just seem to be sort of like a random thing. Because, like, one time I got a bunch of them in a row, and then I didn't get any more for, like, 5 levels. So I'm not exactly sure how they're distributed.
Yeah.
But what the weapon spirits do is you can equip different ones, and they have a positive and a negative effect. Like, you do more damage, but health orbs heal you less over time. It's a good idea. I like it when you can equip things that also have a negative effect in RPGs because it really makes you think, like, is this worth the cost? But in Sacred 3, both the benefit and the negative point is so negligible that, like, I forget I have them equipped. It doesn't matter because my character's so overpowered. Like, it's the same. It doesn't change anything.
I've unlocked 9 or 10 of those, and the very first one is still the best, and that's the one I'm using.
The water guy.
The battle
Oh,
mage.
yeah.
So, moment-to-moment combat, you know, it's not a train wreck. It's just boring.
Right. That's something I will say about Sacred 3 in comparison to Sacred 2. It feels better. It controls well, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not. But the thing is, when you're comparing Sacred 3 to other contemporary action RPGs, it just doesn't hold up at all. Like, when you look at something like Diablo 3, which Diablo 3 also has a lot of its own issues, but, like, it's not even in the same league. Not even in the same league.
And there are side quests in between the main quests.
Oh, the side quests.
But there are 2 forms of these side quests. There are survive 5 waves, destroy all enemies. That's it. There's no variety. It's the same locations. You go in there, and they say the same thing every time. They're not going to make this easy. Every time. And then at the end, you get a negligible 1 extra health potion or, you know, a bunch of gold that you can't even spend because you need to be a certain level to spend it.
And I'm not necessarily, I don't think price and length are always need to be like, if a game costs this much, it should be this long. But when you look at how long Sacred 2 was and then you look at Sacred 3, you can finish Sacred 3 in less than 10 hours your first time through. And it just goes so quickly, and none of it stands out. For $49.99, this game feels like a $15 to $20 brawler.
Yeah.
And it was either last year or the year before, they released like this spin-off game called Sacred Citadel, which was a 2D brawler, and it was $15, and it was great. You felt like you were getting something simple, and you were getting what you're paying for, but Sacred 3 feels like a ripoff.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of the series, it feels like a step back. If you're like, you want a new action RPG, it's not going to do it. There's not enough complexity there.
Yeah.
So
It'll be interesting to see how much Gauntlet will cost.
Yeah.
What I've seen from Gauntlet, it looks fantastic.
Definitely.
Hopefully it delivers and craves my action RPG itch.
Great.
But thanks for talking, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Huber.
Was it good for you, too?